So once again, I apologize for starting this webinar late, but we'll make sure to give you all the information that we promised for today's session. My name is Vishal Sharma, and I'll be the moderator today. Today, I'm joined alongside Prashanti Reddy. Prashanti is an award-winning immigration attorney who specializes in immigration law. With over 25 years of experience, she has been an ST member of the American Immigration Lawyers Association and the New York Bar Association. She is currently admitted to the bar in New York. Prashanti is also the current advisor / immigration counsel for Indian Consulate in New York and is actively involved in pro bono legal work as well. With her experience, she has been recognized and awarded with multiple awards and awards. Some of them are listed here, including the very recent, she was listed by Forbes as one of New York City's best immigration lawyer in 2024, and honored listee of the widely recognized market Who's Who for 2024. On that note, I would like to introduce Prashanti, and Prashanti, please take us forward. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar. So glad you join us every month. Please keep joining so that we have a good audience and we're motivated to do the show every month and get you good information. And if we have more joinees, we'll do that more than once a month. So the more number of people that join, the more information you guys get. So this session, we had decided to look at the visa bulletins, take a step back. Instead of doing H1s, since the H1 season is over, we might continue doing that again next session. But we thought we'll talk about immigrant visas because everyone who's on a H1 or a work visa, anyone in the United States who wants to get a green card is really impacted by the visa bulletin every month. So we'll show you what the visa bulletin looks like, how to look at it, how to read it, what the different categories are, and what the total number of green cards were, what number were issued last year and this year, and how those numbers are then allocated country-wise. So how this whole mysterious visa bulletin works, which is very confusing. Even the Department of State doesn't know. They make a guesstimate of, you know, what they think will happen, and based on that, they give out number of number of green cards. So it's not a static number every year; it changes. And sometimes numbers fall down from other categories into some categories, and so it's a dynamic number, and it's important to know what it looks like, at least for comparison in the last 2 years. Let's start off with the July visa bulletin, and then we'll touch upon the August visa bulletin. They both look very similar. Um, July visa bulletin. So since this is the month of July, if you're filing this month, USCIS is going to accept the final action date table. There are two tables, and I think we have a slide for that later on as to what the two tables are. But there are two tables: the final action date table and the dates for filing table. And every month, USCIS will tell us which table they want to use. The final action date table is used most commonly, but generally, when the fiscal year starts, remember fiscal year starts in October to October. So when the fiscal year starts, they usually start off with dates for filing table. The dates for filing table is an advanced table, so it always looks better than final action date table. Well, sometimes they're the same, but usually it looks better. It's more advanced because they're allowing you to file your 485 in advance of the actual date becoming current, because they anticipate that by the time you file your 485 and it gets approved, they anticipate that your date will become current. So when it's close to being current, that's the dates for filing table. They're allowing you to file in advance. Um, So depending on the backlog which USCIS has. So what is this? What are these tables on the whole? The table is the date that you can actually file your 485, your adjustment of status application. So if your date is the date on your I-140 or your I-130 uh, is that's called the priority date, the date of filing the I-130 or the I-140. If it's the I-140, that priority date is the date that you file your labor cert. And that's the priority date is recorded on the I-140 though. On the approval, you'll find it written priority date. So you look at that priority date, and that priority date is the same as the date on the Visa Bulletin table. Depending on which table we're using for that month, then you can file your 485. If the date has passed also, of course, you can file it. So for the July Visa Bulletin, the USCIS has said that they're going to use the final action date table. As I said, since it's the end of the year, people they usually look at the final action date table, not the dates for filing, because the numbers are, getting lesser and lesser. So the chances of the visa number becoming available soon is slim. So that's why they don't allow you to use the dates for filing table. So they're looking at the final action date table. So if you have a priority date earlier than the date listed or same as the date listed, then you can go ahead and file your 485. For EB3 category, there is a high demand. They did say it'll retrogress in August, but we have the August visa bulletin now, so it has not retrogressed. But it might retrogress in September. So that's something to keep in mind because the EB3 visa bulletin, the EB3 numbers are being used heavily. Next slide. So this is the July visa bulletin. This is what happened from June to July, the changes. This July visa bulletin, the reason we're highlighting it is because there were major changes in the July visa bulletin, and that continues in the August visa bulletin as well. Again, if you're filing this month, this is what you need to look at. For July visa bulletin, India EB1 category advanced by 11 months, almost a year. It advanced to February 1, 2022. For those of you who are in EB1, please check your priority dates to see if they've been advanced. For China, they advanced by 2 months. All other countries remain current. For EB2, also there was some advancement by 2 months. Now we're only talking about the final action dates table because that's the only table to look at. So for EB2, advanced by 2 months. For India, for China, it advanced by 1 month. And all other countries also advanced by 2 months. So you see that India is advanced pretty rapidly for EB1 and advanced somewhat for EB2 as well. Now, EB3 in India advanced by 1 month to September 22nd, 2012. And China advanced remains the same as last month. And all other countries actually retrogressed by 11 months and 3 weeks. So all other countries you see EB3 is already retrogressing. Next slide. August. Let's look at August, what happened. Now we've seen rapid forward movement in July. In August, also there was moderate forward movement. There was a forward movement of 1 month for EB2 and 1 month for EB3, and then EB1 remains current. And again, the final action date table has to be looked at, not the dates for filing table. And again, State Department anticipates EB3 retrogression. They anticipated it in August, but they didn't do it in August. They are now anticipating retrogression in September. They're in fact anticipating that it'll become unavailable completely in September. So if you have an EB3, you will not be able to file it because there will be no dates available in September. So instead of retrogressing it in August, they didn't do that. They are allowing you to continue to file in August, but they're going to make it completely unavailable in September, which is, fair enough. I think it's more advantageous to do this uh, than, no movement at all in September and not, and retrogressing it in August. So this is better. Next slide. So EB1, there's been no change at all. as we saw that there was a rapid forward movement in July by 11 months, so they're not changing it any further. EB2, as I said, forward movement is 1 month for India, and EB3 also the forward movement is 1 month for India. Next slide. Now we have a good idea of what the July and August visa bulletins look like. Now let's look at the visa bulletin comparison in August 2023 and August 2024. This is important so that we can see how the green card numbers looked last year and how they're looking this year, and if we're seeing any forward movement or we're seeing retrogression last year compared to this year. And this will also be an indication of what is to happen next year, right? That's why it's good to look at the history of and the statistics. So for family sponsored, we're only talking about family-based cases now, on all these different categories, and we'll talk about the different categories a little later on. But if you look at F1, F2A, F2B, F3, F4, for the rest of the world, we see that in 2023, it was January 2015, and in August of 2024, it's October 2015. So there was a forward movement. So there is a positive 294 days. So 10 months, if you see that it's 10 months advanced compared to August 2023. So that's great. If you look at the other category, F2A, there's a advancement of 2017, so 1,499 days. Good forward movement. F2A, I think, is green card holders. So there's a significant forward movement in F2A for spouses and children of permanent residents. So it's moved from 2017 to 2021. Interesting to see, right? F2B is moved by a year. Actually, 222 days may not be correct. It's, or maybe it is. It is correct, actually. 2015 to 2016, September to May. So 222 days. F3, these are the different categories. Again, I won't go into each category right now. But if you see all of them, you see there is a advancement in the dates, August 2023 versus August 2024. You look at China also, there's an advancement. I'm looking at the dates, and you see there is an advancement for China as well. And if you look at, um, actually, sorry, rest of the world, we were looking at rest of the world first. You see an advancement. We looked at China, there's an advancement. Now looking at India also, there's an advancement. Uh, Pretty much the same as the rest of the world and the same as China. Uh, Most of them are same as China except for the F4 categories. And same as if you look at rest of the world and China, F4 is the same, but F4 advanced more for India when compared to the rest of the world and China. So, on the whole, you see there is a forward movement from 2023 to 2024. Next slide. Now, this is the final action date tables for employment based for August 2023 and 2024. Rest of the world has been current for, if I look at EB1 for rest of the world, August 2023 was in 2023. It was not current. Rest of the world is current right now. So that is again moved forward in 2024 versus 2023. Same thing for EB2, rest of the world moved forward by almost a year. EB3 also moved forward by almost 2 years. If you look at EB3, rest of the world, China also you see forward movement. If you look at the dates in the screenshot, in the slide. And for India, there is a huge forward movement in EB1. August 2024, they have reached 2022. In August 2023, it was in 2012. So there's a forward movement of 12 years almost, 10 years forward movement for EB3. Sorry, EB1. That's quite amazing. For EB2, the forward movement is also pretty good, almost 2 years. Um, so 2011, January to July of 2012. I think he's put the months in the middle, but yeah, just to give you an idea, 561 days. And for EB3, the forward movement again is significant in 2009 to 2012, 4 years almost. So it's interesting to see how 2024 August looks much better than 2023 August. This really means that the visa numbers were not used up until August, and in August they, moved them forward, or for whatever reason, visa numbers were not used up as much as they were used in 2023. Maybe rest of the world and other categories, so that they fell. Other categories could have fallen down into uh, EB1, EB2, and EB3, or rest of the world could have fallen down to help India. Whichever way you look at it, you see India, there's the maximum, most forward movement compared to China or rest of the world. You see 3,684 days for EB1 versus 273 days for China. So you see India has benefited because they're also the most backlogged. So they're bound to benefit more with any available numbers. So that's a good sign. Maybe, hopefully, it's a sign of things to come uh, for the next year as well. Next slide. So that's the visa bulletin. Just again, I was talking a little bit in the beginning about what the visa bulletin is. It's a monthly report issued by the Department of State. It explains how many immigrant visa numbers are available for different preference categories in a given month. And why is it important? It's crucial because this will tell you how long it'll take, to give you a guesstimate at least of how long it'll take to obtain a green card through both family-based and employment-based processes, depending on which, whether you're doing an employment-based case or a family-based case. Next slide. Now, these are the different categories. We were talking about F1A, F2B. So F1, this is how you look at the visa bulletin. It'll be categorized in these different categories for family-based. These are what F1 means. So you know what kind of visa you have filed, obviously. And in the I-130 approval, if it's family-based, or in the I-140 approval, if it's employment-based, the category will be mentioned. It'll be mentioned as EB1, EB2, EB3. So these are what the different categories are, and accordingly, you have to look at the visa bulletin for your particular category. So if you're an unmarried son and daughter of a US citizen, but you're over 21 years of age, then you fall under the best category, which is F1. F2A is spouses and children of permanent residents. F2B is unmarried sons and daughters, adults of lawful permanent residents. F3 is married sons and daughters of US citizens. F4 is brothers and sisters of US citizens, and that's usually the most backlogged category. EB1 is employment-based category 1, which is extraordinary ability as well as um, multinational executives. So L1A based category is EB1. EB2 is if you have a master's degree or a bachelor's plus 5. If your job requires that and the 140, the perm has been done in such a way, then that's EB2. EB3 is if your perm has been filed with the requirement of a bachelor's degree and up to 2 years of experience, then you'll fall under EB3. EB4 is religious workers, EB5 is investor visas. And so based on which category you're in, your processing time varies, and the visa bulletin dates show up on the table. Uh, and sometimes visa bulletin can show up as C, that means it's current, so you can file. Sometimes it shows as U, which is unavailable. We were saying that EB3 might become unavailable for next month. for India. So you could see, most probably you will see the alphabet U unavailable. So that's a little bit about how to read the visa bulletin. Next slide. So this is the actual visa bulletin, what it looks like. Uh, Final action date and dates for filing, both tables have been mentioned here. And we've already discussed that for India, we've seen the movement for China. So if your priority date is, for example, if we're talking about uh, F1, if you file your I-130 on October 2015 or earlier, then um, that will be your priority date. Meaning that if that's the case, then you'll be able to file your 484. So that's the priority date. Next slide. That's generally how it looks like. You have to go to the visa bulletin page, and this is how it looks like. This is the final action date table for employment-based preference categories. So if you look at it, first category EB1, India is February 22nd, February 1, 2022. It's current for all other countries. China is November 1, 2022, 2020, the year 2022. So you see it's backlogged for India and China by about 2 years. So it'll take about 2 years, perhaps, for your visa number to become available and for you to file a green card. Or it might then again take more than 2 years. It just the backlog of 2 years doesn't mean that the dates will become current in 2 years. It can take 10 years because it's not like the dates move by 1 month every month. It doesn't work that way, right? So, and sometimes it remains static for many months at a time. And sometimes it moves by 10 months, like we saw how, EB1 moved. So that does is not an indication of how long it can take, fortunately. It's just an indication of the backlog that they are working on 2022 cases right now. Next slide. Some key dates to understand the visa bulletin is dates for filing and final action date. Those are the two different tables. In the dates indicate when someone can potentially apply to adjust status. Final action date is the date when your visa number is actually available, which means that if you file your 480 file, you can actually get your green card provided that the final action date table continues to be available for your particular date until your 485 gets processed. Say it's available at the time that you're filing, but since the 485 takes about 10 to 12 months to get processed, or sometimes 18 months to get processed, what might happen is during that time, the dates might retrogress or might become unavailable. So they have to remain available until your 485 is processed. Otherwise, your 485 can be filed, but will continue to be pending, and you get the benefits of a pending 485, such as an EAD, OPT, that means advance parole and an AP and EAD, so advance parole and employment authorization. So advance parole allows you to travel without a visa. And for family-based cases, you have to travel with an advance parole. You cannot travel with your original visa that you have. If you don't travel on advance parole for family-based cases, your case gets denied. For employment-based cases, you can travel on your visa as well, non-immigrant visa, or you can travel on advance parole. So that's some of the, to understand some of the nomenclatures of the visa bulletin. As I was saying, letter C means current, which means that you're ready to process your green card. Next slide. Quickly to wrap it up, and then we'll be ready for questions. So any of you out there who have questions, please start typing in your questions in the Q&A session. And let's talk a little bit about the history of the total numbers available in 2023 and 2024, and what they look like and how many were used, right? So for 2023, employment-based numbers were 197,091. because there were some unused family-based numbers in the previous year. Those rolled over to the employment-based, and so there were more numbers available. It was 197,091. In addition, 6,396 EB5 visas got carried over from 2022 to 2023. And so by the end of the year, fiscal year on September 30th, 2023, the agencies used all the employment-based numbers. So all the numbers were used. Sometimes all the numbers are not used and they go wasted. But for 2023, it stated that all the 197,091 numbers were used. And the reason it's 197,000 is that there was a carryover from the family-based cases and also from EB5, right? So that's what it was. And USCIS and the Executive Office for Immigration Review approved more than 147,000 employment-based cases in 2023. Okay, so for 2024, what does it look like? We see that the numbers available are only 161, so there are less numbers available. So there are not that many carry forwards as there were in 2023 as they were in 2022. So there's only 161,000 as opposed to 191,000 numbers available for employment based. And in addition to the 161,000 numbers for employment based EB5 categories, there's a separate quota available of 10,874. So just to keep that in mind, there are extra visas. Those were the extra visas for EB5, right? USCIS intends to use all the numbers for 2024 as well, so that there is no leftover numbers, and they say that they are on track to use all the green card numbers for 2024 as well. Next slide. I think with that,
That should be it. We can
we
now
are done.
open up for Q&A. I do see a few questions. So once again, if you have any questions, now is the chance to ask. You can drop in your question in the Q&A box and we'll pick it up from there. Prashant, the first question is, would the visa stamp of H-1B holder, my spouse, required when I appear for my H-4 visa interview? Or would the copy of I-797 approval be sufficient for me to carry at my H-4 visa interview?
Hi, Vijay. You don't need the stamp. You only need the I-797. If you're doing the H4, then you just need the spouse's approval, I-797 approval. You don't need the actual visa stamp.
All right, that answers. Next up is actually just a statement there. Looking for an attorney for my L1A processing. So I would definitely suggest to book a consultation with Prashanti and we can certainly take it offline. Next is scenario. Person on H1 in the USA since 2023, I-140 approved in 2018 under computer systems. However, the person has been designated as project manager from the start. Now, look forward to file extension, but want to make sure doing it correct manner. So, should I send a file as project manager or system analyst as a PRM, perm? What will be the challenge here if filed in either of the designations? Salary part of both is same, and that's not an issue. Please suggest your expert opinion here.
Usually, so the issue here is that the H1 was filed under computer systems. However, for the perm, I guess they designated it as a project manager. So, or the other way around. Or maybe the perm was designated as systems analyst, but the H1 is designated as a project manager. So there is a difference in the job title in perm as well as in the H1. So he's wondering if there will be an issue here since they both have different job titles. I mean, as in general, it's always better, right, to have the same job title because if you're filing a permanent uh, labor cert under perm, you are filing it by this, and if it's the same employer that you're working for right now that's filing your perm, I understand that it is for a future job offer. It is not for the job that you're doing now. They're saying that after you get a green card, this is the job that you'll be working in. So it's possible that it can be different because you're not working in that job right now. But it's prudent that even if it is different, that it be similar. That means in your case, I mean, one of them is higher and one of them is lower. Project manager also can work as a systems analyst. It's just that the designation is higher. And your perm is being filed most probably as EB3 as a systems analyst, so it's a lower designation. So will a person actually be demoted when they get the green card? So that it's all a question of whether it's believable or not, whether USCIS or the Labor Department will think that it's a valid job offer or an actual job offer or not, or whether they'll be suspicious as to whether with reference to the validity or the viability of the job offer, right? So that is the thing. Whether do they actually look into these things? Sometimes they do, but most of the time they don't. Um, so people are able to get away with it. But if you have the chance of doing changing things, especially since you're saying the wages are the same, when you're doing your next labor, I mean, if that's a possibility, then I would do it as a try to keep the job title as the same, the designation is the same or similar.
All right. Hopefully that answers. Next up is hello, this is Radha. My priority date is June 2014 in EB2 category. I have been using my GCEAD as a work authorization from this January 2024 with same original employer. Also, my initial GC interview is done in March 2024 and waiting for my priority date to be current. Currently, I am on bench from last couple of months with no payroll due to a tight job market. Will staying without a payroll for some like 6 months can potentially cause any issue during 485 adjudication? Please advise of any steps to tackle this scenario.
So here the issue that the person has is they're on a 485, they're not on a H1, and they're using their EAD, and they're working for the company. And recently, I guess the company didn't lay them off, but maybe they haven't been paid because they don't have a job right now, a project. While intermittently not being paid does not affect your green card in total, but for example, if you're not paid for over a year, then they might question whether you have the offer of employment, whether it's still valid because you're working with the same employer. So how does USCIS know that after you get the green card, you'll actually work for this employer if you're presently not working for them? But if it's intermittent and it's here and there in between, you're not really out of status because you have a pending 485. It's only a question of whether your job offer, your permanent job offer was valid or not, and whether if you're able to show that it was and this was just a one-time thing, then that's fine. That shouldn't affect your processing of your green card or your status.
All right. Next question is, when going for visa stamping, what documents are required to be carried to the consulate if the H-1B has been filed as an in-house application?
Presuming when you say in-house application, you are working for a consulting company, and that consulting company has said that they have project. Uh, maybe they're developing a product and you're working on that particular product that they're developing. That's the usual lingo where in-house is used, but I don't know in what context you're using it, but I'm going to presume it's that. So if you're working on a product that is being developed by the company and then being marketed and sold, then I would submit all the information that was submitted for the H1 to get the H1 approved. But nowadays, I know they're approving H1s more easily than they used to. So maybe you didn't submit much information. So I would carry all information related to the product to show that it's a genuine product, to show that uh, uh, you know uh, the product is being developed right now. Show screenshots, show if any patent has been taken, if it's being marketed, and if it's being used presently, then the client contracts, money is received for using that product, product report. I would take all this information with me. Any revenue spent on developing the product, contract that you have, say, with outside organization to help develop part of the product, or maybe you have taken an app, right, from the app store and you're paying for the that app. You could show that as well. These are a few things that you can show to convince the U.S. Department of State that it's a genuine project or product.
Well noted. Next up is my STEM OPT expires in 2026. When should I apply for my H1B?
The sooner the better. You should have applied this year because you don't know when you'll be picked in the lottery, and the chances of being picked in the lottery is about 25% this year. So you should have filed this year if you could have. Otherwise, don't miss the opportunity to file every year. If you get picked next year, that's fine. If you don't, then you have to keep on filing. And the more chances you give yourself, the better.
Great advice. Next up is right now I am on H4 and I have H1B approved copy. I did not use my H1B till now, and it's going to expire in September 2024. Even I can, even if I am eligible to transfer my H1B before or after expire also. Sorry, we have to paraphrase this question a bit. It's in chat, Prashanti.
It's in chat. Okay.
Yeah.
Right now I'm on H4 and I have H1 approval. I did not use my H1 till now and it's going to expire. Even I can be eligible to transfer my H1 before or after expires. Okay, they're asking a question, but they've phrased it as a statement, but I'm presuming
Mhm.
it's a question.
Yeah.
They're asking if they can use that H1. If you're presently on a H4, uh, you cannot automatically use the H1. You have to file again a change of status from a H4 to H1. But you may be able to use the H1 in the sense that you might be cap exempt. If you will be cap exempt if you previously have a H1. So I would say attach the H1 approval, state that you're cap exempt, and file a change of status from H4 to H1. And you can do that after it expires also.
Great. Sorry, I think there is one more post. I'm just going through that. What document would you need to apply for an H1B as an undergraduate student?
It doesn't matter that you're an undergraduate student, you only need undergrad. So you need a bachelor's degree, that's all you need. You don't need a master's degree. So you would submit everything else that you're submitting for a H1 generally. And in addition to that, you would submit your undergrad degree and your transcript. And you have to make sure that your degree is related to the job that you're going to be doing. So if you're working as a software engineer, you have to have a bachelor's degree in computer science or related. If you're working as a market research person, for example, you'd have a bachelor's degree in marketing. So you have to make sure that the degree is related, and all the rest of the documents are the same. The employer has to show that they have work for you. They have to provide documentation to show that work. You have to show that you are in status. If you're in the US, so you have to submit your status documentation, your passport copy, your I-94, any previous approvals that you have, and of course, all the required forms and letter, which details the job and the nature of business of the company.
Noted. Next one is again on Q&A, and I believe this is an extension to one of the questions previously asked. So I'm reading it out for you. If you can elaborate, as if I file under the designation as per perm, brackets system analyst, I feel the chances of getting RFE is higher as sudden change in design and duties. However, as you mentioned, the degradation of role will happen after GC approval. So field project manager designation for current extension as can explain be promoted, please suggest.
File under designation as a perm or file the H1. Yes. So you're right. Filing the H1 as a systems analyst is problematic because systems analyst designation is not necessarily the best designation for a H1, though they are approving a lot of these cases. I would say that you file, based on what you are, always stick to the truth. So don't make up something because it's convenient, right? I think the main issue, the issue with is with the perm, not with your H1. But if you've already filed the perm and you filed the labor cert and it's the same company, etc., and there's no need for you to file another labor cert, I would think at this point just go as is, and I wouldn't change anything on your H1. I would keep your H1 as continue to keep it as project manager.
All right.
What
So
I would
hopefully
do
that
if I had the
answers.
opportunity is change the perm. If you ever needed to file the perm again because you were moving to another employer, this time file it in the same designation as your H1 is being filed. But otherwise, for now, I think I would just keep things as is.
All right. Hopefully that answers. Next one is my name got picked up in 2023 second lottery, and I filed my petition in October 2020. But till the time my employer is not in position to issue client letter and MSA under these circumstances, may I transfer this petition from my current employer to another employer?
If you don't have a job with your current employer, you obviously have to. But hopefully you are getting paid because you do need pay stubs in order to file for a transfer. So I'm hoping that pay stubs are not an issue. And then, yeah, you can file a transfer if that's what you want. It looks like, let me see if there's anything else here that is by name. It got picked up in the lottery and he filed the petition. So it looks, I don't know if your petition was approved or not. You say it was filed, but was your H1 actually approved? If it was not approved, then you're not cap exempt. If it was approved, then you're definitely cap exempt and you can file another H1. And I'm presuming you might be on an F1 now or some other status.
All right. On that note, Prashanti, thank you so very much. We will definitely have another session very soon. So to everyone who have joined today's session, we look forward to seeing you in the next one as well. And once again, Prashanti, thank you so very much.
Don't forget to subscribe to our videos if you like what you see. Also give us a thumbs up and share the video with your family and friends. Thank you.